Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Hayemi, Zevachim Yudches. We are holding halfway down the Amud at the word akati. So it's about halfway down, and akati is the last word on that line, and that's where we're holding akati. Mehacha nafka, mehasam nafka. Still, do you mean that the source provided yesterday, that if a kohen is missing his attire, missing his begadim, he is disqualified from doing avodah? In fact, if he does the avodah, it becomes puzzle. So is it this pasuk, the pasuk that we learned yesterday? Mehasam nafka. We learned it from elsewhere, another pasuk. So why do we need two psukim, two sources for the same idea? Pasuk says, "V'nasnu b'nei Aaron hakayin eish al hamizbeach." So the sons of Aaron hakayin, Aaron hakayin is the kohen gadol, of course. Why the word hakayin? We already know Aaron is the kohen gadol. To tell you, b'kihunoi, when he presents himself as a kohen, when he's a valid kohen gadol, which means only when he's wearing his uniform. Limei, this teaches us, al kohen gadol shalovash big day kohen hedyet. If a kohen gadol chooses to downgrade his attire, he wears only the 4 begadim meant for a kohen hedyet, v'avad, and he proceeds with the avodah, avodah besula. It affects his work, his avodah is possible. We see from here, if a kohen is missing his big day kuna, it's possible. Why do we need two sources for the same thing? The answer is Ime Hasam. If only from that pasuk, Havamina, I would think Hanemili Avoida de Ma'achva Kapara. So if it's only the pasuk that we had yesterday, Kahuna Luchukas Oilam, right? Perhaps that only relates to avodah, which is critical to the success of the carbon, like zrika, components which are vital for the kapara. But let's say he's involved in something which is not vital to the kapara, like lighting the fire on the mizbeach, which is the subject of this pasuk here. Right? It says v'nosnu b'nei Aaron hakayin eish al hamizbeach. Rashi explains that really it's a mitzvah, it's a great mitzvah, but it's mitzvah ba'almahi. It's just a mitzvah because really there already was fire there, spiritual, heavenly fire, which wouldn't be affected by rain or snow, as the Mishnah in Maseches Avos says. So there was fire, all right, but there was a mitzvah to actually light, to add personal fire, as per the general precept of our avodah, which is, sure, Hashem helps us, but Hashem wants us to invest. Do your part, and I will complete the rest. So in any case, it was just a mitzvah. It wasn't about akev kapara. So perhaps in this case, it's not so critical that he wear the big day kahuna. And that's why we need this pasuk. Even there, it's quite important. Ask the Gemara. But still, we have another pasuk. And still, is it from this pasuk? From the pasuk of Ahoy Salahem, which we discussed yesterday, to which we add the additional pasuk of today, we have yet a third pasuk, Mahasam Nafka. We have a third source. This is regarding the Kehanim placing the parts of the Oila on the Mizbeach. V'archu b'nei Aharon ha-Kehanim es ha-Nesachim. Why ha-Kehanim? It's obvious. It teaches us ha-Kehanim b'kihunan, when they're wearing the big day kahuna, which their status is dependent upon, right? So we learn from here, mikan, the kohen headed, shalavash, big the kohen gadol v'avad, the kohen headed, regular kohen decides to upgrade and wear extra begad meant for the kohen gadol v'avad, he proceeds with the avodah. Avodah psula becomes possible. So again, why do we need so many psukim? Answers the Gemara, imi hasam. If only from the other pasuk, I mean, I would think, hani mi lechisur. That's only if he drops. He goes down. Let's say he's, Kohen Gadol, he only wears 4, etc. Aval, Yitur, light, but perhaps if he adds to his required amount, he goes up from 4 to 8, perhaps no harm was done. Aval Yitur light, Kamash, one comes this person and says no. A regular Kohen must present like a regular Kohen. If he should add to his number of begadim, Kamash one, that the avodah is possible. Tanur. Okay, further on the topic of Bigdei Kahuna, which are meant to present him as honorable and noble, as the pasuk said, L'chavod u'sif ares, to beautify the Kohen in his presentation in honor of the avodas Hashem. Tanur Rabban Hayim Rushalim, let's say the begadim, which were meant to be cut to size, made to order, custom fit. Hayim Rushalim, they're dragging on the floor, are too long. That's how Rashi learns. Nigrorim Bekarka, which would indicate that the ksainis, like the rope that he would wear, a long shirt, would actually reach the ground. If it was dragging, that's too long. But the Rambam actually learns that the ksainis would reach only to the right above the ankle. So here Merushalim means it was longer than that, too long. Misulakin, or is lifted too high, too short. Mushuchakim, worn out. V'avad, he proceeded to do the avodah with those misfitting begadim. Avodas aksher, although preferably they should fit him perfectly, they should present beautifully, but b'di'evet it works. What if he added or detracted from the number of begadim? Lavash nechasayim, decided to wear 2 pairs of pants. They have natim 2 belts. Chaser achas, yeser achas, missing a beged, adding a beged. Oishaisali ritiam makas besare tachas bigdo. He had a bandage on a wound on his skin, right beneath the beged, which is now a barrier. And the beged is supposed to be directly on his skin. It says yilbash al besare. Or no, they were dirty. Some learn it means visibly dirty, which would be embarrassing for him to wear, in front of not just a little spot or something. They were seriously dirty. Or they were torn. Rashi says even if they're brand new, if they were torn, that's not a proper beged. Rashi says on the second line, the ba'inan l'chaved u'sif ares. That's how the Torah describes them. They have to be beautiful. So if they're lacking that, basic, critical ingredient, if he works with it, it's possible. Amar Shmuel, Mirushal, when they're too long, ksherin, it passes. Misulakin, however, if they're too short, psulan, they are possible. Vatanya, we just had a brisa, long and short, can pass. Mirushalan, ksherin, misulakin. Vatanya, misulakin ksherin, even if they're too short, they're still kosher. And Shmuel says they're possible. How do we fit Shmuel with the brisa? It depends how. Why it's too short. If it was cut too short initially, then of course it's possible. You don't have a proper beged. However, when Shmuel says misulakin is kosher, lifted is kosher, it was lifted, by a belt, with a belt. So, he crunched up his, sometimes you have like a belt around your raincoat and you pull it too tight and the raincoat just lifts and crunches and it's a bit short, but it's not really short. It was just lifted that way. Kan shesulkan, he lifted them al de avneit, with his belt. In that case, says Shmuel, look, the beged itself really fits. Nothing wrong, inherently with the beged's size, so it's okay, even though he's not wearing it properly. Kan. So that's the case of the brisa. That's why the brisa says misulakin is ksher. But kan, when Shmuel says misulakin is pasul, was speaking that it was cut too short to begin with. The lesson of Mikara Klal was never there to begin with. It means to say it didn't fit him to begin with. So it's inherently too short and misfitting him. Rav goes a step further. He says even if it's too long, it's pasul as well. Whether it's too long or too short. Psulin, the beged is pasul. And we're going to see in a minute how to reconcile Rav with the brisa, which seems to say that too long is okay. We begin with a story. Rav Huna, he came to this town called Argiza, Iklala Argiza. And he stayed in this guest house, and the son of his host had a question for him. He encountered a Talmud Chacham. What opportunity? Ask you a question. Ramalei. So who posed him a question? Bar, the son of Pischanei, of his host, presented him a question as follows. Mi Amar Shmuel. Did Shmuel then tell us, Miru Shalom Ksherin, Umisalakim Sulan? Too long is okay, too short is possible, Vatanya. But the Brisa says, even too short is okay, Misalakim Ksherin. Amalei, he says, Bar Mino, leave that alone. We already answered that question before. Bar Mino Dahi, let's leave that difficulty on the side. It's been resolved. The Shanye, it was already resolved by Rami Bar Chama. It depends. If it was too short to begin with, then it's possible. But if it was just crunched up, then it's okay. Ella, Rav Kash. But if you want to ask a question, you should ask on Rav. Rav says that even too long is okay. And the Brisa says, Miru Shalan, meaning too long is okay. Rav says too long is possible. Ella, Rav Kash. If anything, ask Kash on Rav, who says Miru Shalan, too long is possible. The Brisa says okay. Perhaps we'll say, we'll resolve it like this. My Miru Shalan. The Brisa says too long is okay. It doesn't mean that it's currently too long. It means that it was lifted up and shortened to size. Musalak and Adi Avnit was a belt. So the belt pushed it back to size. The Avnit megas agis. And the Brisa will hold that, you know, when you lift it through using a belt, it's like it's been trimmed and cut back to size. We don't view it. We don't view the robe as being too long anymore. It's been, modified. Actually modified back to size through that belt. That belt sort of changes its size. Okay, so that resolves that question. Again, when Rav says Miru Shalom, too long is possible, we're speaking that it's still too long. It's just dragging. The Brisa says Miru Shalom is kasha. We're speaking that he reduced it back to size through that belt, and the belt is considered as though it's chopping off the extra material. Right? We look at it the way it is now. The way it is now, it fits in perfectly. It's as though he resized it. Okay, so that resolves that point. But El Musalak and Kasha. But now we have a real big difficulty on our hands, because the Brisa says Musulakan, which means too short, it's still okay. And Rav says it's not. Now, we can't say the Brisa is speaking that it was lifted through that belt, and therefore we ignore that shortening. Because we just said a second ago that according to Rav's opinion, shortening via belt is considered resizing the item. So if he shortened it, Musulach, he lifted it off the ground, made it too short with his belt, it's as though he resized the actual beged, and it's now too small. So whether it was too small to begin with, or made too small via that belt, it's considered a size too small on him. There's no way it could be kosher, according to Rav. Amar Rabbi Zera. Says Rabbi Zera, you're right. How does Rav resolve the Brisa, which says too long or too short is okay? Rav Chadatani. Rav learned the Brisa differently than we did it until now. The Brisa is merely describing one and the same case. It's not two cases, long as one and short. We're speaking about Mirushalim. The begadim were too long, but then they were fixed up. They were lifted by that belt. So it's one case. It started as too long. Mirushalim, but Shesilkan Ade Avne, he lifted them off the ground and he made them perfectly fit this. They fit perfectly now. Shesilkan Ade Avne. And the Avne, as we learned before, the belt is considered like resizing the beged, because it's all about how it's presented, how he's wearing it. If now it's short, it's now been shortened from its extra long status, and now made to fit, made to size by that belt. It's okay, kshir, and that's why the Brisa says it's okay. So in conclusion, it's very simple. If you have a big day kahuna, which were cut short, too short to begin with, all agree it's possible, no question. It's not made to size. It's not kimidasa. It's not just not covering it properly, right? And according to Rav, even if it was properly sized, but it was shortened via a belt, it's now considered too short, right? The size has now been revised. The beggar is too short. What if the beggar is too long and stayed that way, just dragging? According to Rav, it's puzzle, because it has to fit perfectly according to Shmuel. Look, it's too long. It still covers him. Maybe too much coverage, but it doesn't detract from the beged. Just because it has a little extra. We say, B'chalal Mosai Mana. Within the number 200, you have included the number 100. So in a large beged, too large, within it you have the smaller size as well. It doesn't take away from it. It doesn't add, but it doesn't take away. So you still have a properly covering beged. Says the Gemara. So this question, whether we can allow a long beged, which is really the machlekes Rav and Shmuel, seems to be a machlekes Tanoim as well. Amar Rav Yirmiyah midifte mirushal and shloi silka. The beged which is too long, which was not fixed up, which was not lifted, Tanoi, seems to be dependent on a machlekes Tanoim, which we find elsewhere regarding tzitzis, no less. You're meant to have 4 corners. What if you have 5? Does it take away? Or no harm was done? It still remains a 4-cornered beged, and it's chayiv and tzitzis. Machlekes, Sanya. The pasuk says, place 4 strings of tzitzis on your 4 corners. Al arba kanfos kesuscha. Arba. It needs to be 4, v'lo shalosh, not 3. A 3-cornered beged is pater. Or perhaps the pasuk is excluding 5. Perhaps 4 means not 5. Well, Kishu Aimer, when the pasuk says an added expression, asher techasaba, the beged which covers you, so that added description is covering an added garment. Haribalas chamesh omer. It's coming to cover a 5-cornered garment. Hovani mikayim arba. So why then does the pasuk state the number 4? Arba means v'lo shalosh, not 3. Umar rois l'rabes balas chamesh. Why do you prefer adding a 5-cornered beged v'lo balas shalosh and exclude 3? If 4 means 4, not 3, 4, not 5. The answer is marbani balas chamesh. I prefer including 5. Sheyesh b'chal chamesh arba. Because in every 5 you have 4. Fine, you don't need the 5th, but you still have 4. So it's chayiv. Umoitzi ani balas shalosh as opposed to 3. She'em b'chal shalosh arba. Within 3 you don't have 4. So the pasuk speaks about a 4-cornered garment. Obviously not 3, because 3 doesn't have 4, but 5 has 4 within it. B'tani, we have another brayso. Al arba kanfos kesuscha. 4 means 4. Arba v'lo shalosh. 4, not 3. Arba v'lo chamesh. 4, not 5 either. Ma'ila baka miflagi. Apparently, the machlekes revolves around our point. If you add, does it detract from the original? Does it become a new entity? Or does it still maintain its original identity? The Mara Savar Yasa command Isei Dami, the second brayso which says 5 is exempt from tzitzis, because Yasa, when it's extra, command Isei Dami, it says though it's there, which means to say you can't ignore that extra bit. And when you add, you have really reinvented the entity. It's a new entity, it's a number 5 entity. It's not 4, it's exempt from tzitzis, which is meant for 4. Likewise, regarding the begadim, big dekuna, which are too long. They don't relate to him, to the size of the kohen. It's too long, it's a new thing. Omar Savar, whereas this first shita says, Kimad Elesa Dami, you can ignore the extra, just ignore it. The addition doesn't render it a new entity, it's still considered the same beged of 4. Likewise, when the begadim of the kohen are too long. Loi said the more not necessarily so. Perhaps the kuli alma command isei dami. Perhaps all would agree. The addition does detract. So regarding big day kahuna, too long is possible. Shani hacha, here it's different by tzitzis because we have that extra pasuk which covers the extra garment. The Rabbi Rahman asher techasaba, Torah added the expression asher techasaba to cover this new type of garment which has 5. V'idach. Now the opposing view holds, no, the Torah is not including that. This extra pasuk, my avidle, what does he apply it for? Miboyle is applying it to include even a garment of a blind man. Typically, we're meant to see that tzitzit, experience it. Only during daytime when you can notice. What if he's a blind man? He can't see ever. Even his beged is chayiv. And it's learned from Asher Techasaba. Because the Sani is in the Brisa, Brisam Oisei. Tzitzis is only active during a time when you can see. Prat l'chsus is opposed to a garment which is meant for nighttime, which you can't see. Or prat l'chsus perhaps it's coming to exclude a blind man's garment since you can't see it. No, when the pasuk adds that expression, it's covering a blind man's garment. Hare kisus summa omer. Hence we have the ksus of the summa included as well. So what then does the pasuk mean? You got to see it. As opposed to a nighttime garment. So we're choosing to include the blind man's and exclude the pajamas. Who's to say which one's in, which one's out? What made you decide, the rabbis, to include the ksus of the summa, to exclude ksus, the garment of Laila? The answer is marbani ksus summa. It's probable the blind man's is included because although he can't see, but others can experience it. At least others can experience it and see it. So it's more probable that that beged is obligated. Is opposed to a nighttime garment, which nobody can see. Nobody can see it. And therefore, it's probable that that is the one excluded. Now the other shita, who had already used Asher for the 5-cornered beged, how does he know the blind man's? Nafkale me asher. The extra word asher techasaba, covers even this. The other shita, asher leidorish, doesn't dwell on the word asher, it's just a modern expression. He doesn't reckon with. So in conclusion, regarding tzitzis, 3-cornered pater, 4 is chayav, 5 is a machlekes, and a nighttime beged is pater, but a ksus summa is chayav. Tanu Rabbanan, back to bigdei kehuna. So pasuk says the beged is made from bad, midoi bad. Bad means linen, flax. Bad tells us the material that it's meant from, that it's made from. Shiyu shel boots. Likewise, the word bad tells you pristine, new, fresh looking, like the way it looked when it grew out of the ground. Shiyu chadashim, as opposed to worn out and dirty. Bad also means shiyu shazurim. The threads are spun and plied. Bad shiyu chutan kofel shlishav. Bad also means it's 6-plied, each thread. In a minute we'll see how we know those things from this word. And the word bad as well tells you on itself, on its own. Don't add other begadim with bigdei kehuna. You can't wear ordinary clothing together with the bigdei kehuna. Let me try to understand the brayso, which seems to learn all these halachas from the word bad. I see why butz is alluded to in the pasuk. Hakamash Mulan. So the brayso is teaching butz in midachrin alai. Yeah, that the garments are comprised of butz, of material, of linen material, right? So that's fine. Butz in, yes, linen, but as opposed to midachrin, but not made of other materials. So that's clearly indicated in the word bad. Ella, but the second halacha, which says bad, sheyu chadashim, they have to be nice and clean and new. Chadashim in shchakin loy, new begadim, but not worn out begadim. By the time we learned in the brayso earlier, mishuchakim ksherim, if they're worn out, they're okay. And here we say that it needs to be, it has to be a new begadim. Amar lei. So he responded. Rabbi Yosef responded to Abaye Tameich. Now, according to your kasha, what about the other items in the brayso? So it said bad means shiyuk chutin kover shisha, that the threads are 6-plied. 6-plied? What do you see that in the word bad? If anything, bad means chad. Bad means one, a single. Chad chudei mashma means each thread is single-plied on its own. What do you see? Double-plied and 6-plied. So apparently the brayso doesn't mean that the word bad is actually alluding to these items. Ella, rather, the brayso meant like this. It was just sort of a point of reference. The begadim shenemar behen bad, the garments of the kohen, on which the Torah uses the word bad, which means linen. So those begadim, you should know, there's a list of requirements which we learn from elsewhere. Rashi says we learn from, from each halacha is learned from, and some, in fact, are not me'akev, and some are, right? So some things are required, but as a preference, like brand new begadim, it's nice to have them, but it's not critical. Whereas some items are critical because they're actually alluded to in the pasuk, like the material, right? So tzrichen shiyukol shel butz. They're meant to be made of butz, linen, chadashim, new, shzurin, spun. Likewise, sheichut and kafar shlisha. Each thread has to be 6-plied. So that's the sort of the full list of requirements. But you're right, not everything is being drawn from this pasuk. Yesh mehen mitzvah. Some are just a requirement, preferably. Like for instance, Rashi says the idea of having new begadim as opposed to worn out. Let's not learn from this pasuk. Yesh mehen la'akiv, as opposed to the linen aspect, the spun, all that we learn from the word bad. And Rashi goes to explains how we see this, see these items in the actual word bad. He says because we find that the pasuk calls it sheish masar, and the other halacha regarding 6-ply we learned from the Gemara and Yuma has a drasha for that. But in any case, you're right. The chadashim requirement to have them new is only a preference, but it's not critical. Ask the Gemara, what do we find that the word bad means linen? What do we find that bad means flax? Amar Be'ezer Chanina, the word itself indicates as such. Davar ha'olam v'nakarka bad bevad. Something which grows out of the ground, stalk by stalk. Some learn that each seed produces its own stalk. Some learn, and Rashi is much more like that, in contrast to other plants which sort of branch off into branches. The linen plant just goes directly up, one stalk at a time. There are no branches, there are no offshoots. So it's describing the characteristics of linen. It says in Wa'ema Amra, maybe it's referring to wool, which also grows one hair at a time. Amra miftzal, in fact, is wool. When it develops, it actually ends up splitting. Some hair is split, so on the animal's back. So that's not a bad bevad. Well, kisna nam miftzal, flax also. When you crush it, it splinters into fibers. Hey, al de la kusa miftzal. It's miftzal. It splits when you bang it, but not as it's growing. Ravina Amar Mihacha. I have another source that in fact the bidei kehuna are meant to be made from flax linen. The pasuk in Yecheskel is describing the various garments. It says parei, these are the hats, the caps, pishtim made of pishtim. There you go, flax. Yol roisham on their heads, u'michasei pishtim yol masneim, and pants of pishtim as well. Lo yachru beyaza, they should not belt themselves by yaza, where there is an area of sweat above the elbow area. We'll see soon in the Gemara. I have a question. You're sourcing the material from the pasuk in Yecheskel. This concept, until Yecheskel Hanavi came along, how do we know it? I mean, this is such a basic, critical component relating to bidei kehuna. What happened until Yecheskel Hanavi came? How do we know it? So he says to him, according to what you're asking, there's another halacha, which is also learned from Yecheskel Hanavi. The following halacha, that a kohen who had not experienced a bris milah may not do the avodah, and if he does the avodah, it becomes possible. How do we know that? Until Yecheskel Hanavi came and presented the halacha. The Amar of Chizda. Chizda told us, the following halacha. You're right. We didn't learn from Teres Moshe from Chumash. However, Midivri Yecheskel Mabuz Lamad, we learned it from Yecheskel Hanavi, where it says, Kol ben Necher Ora Lev Oral Basar, a kohen who's been estranged in terms of his religious commitments. But Oral Basar, likewise, if he was lacking in bris milah, well, Yavel Migdash, saying he shouldn't come and serving the Migdash. This is a pasuk in Yecheskel. Until Yecheskel Hanavi came and presented it. Achaba Yecheskel. How do we know this idea? Ella must be that it was known from day one, from Moshe Rabbeinu, from Har Sinai. It wasn't recorded until later, but it was known orally until then. The Gemara was known by tradition. Yecheskel came along, Akroni presented it in his psukim. He recorded it. Hachanami here as well regarding the material of the bidei kehuna. Gemara was known to us from Moshe Rabbeinu, from Har Sinai. However, it was only recorded until later. One last question. The pasuk by Yecheskel concluded with the words Lo Yachru Bayaza. What does that mean? My Yachru Bayaza. They shouldn't belt themselves, right? They would use an avnei, a belt, to tie up their begadim. So it would be kind of pretty high up. But how high? Not above the elbow area, which tends to be a more sweaty area. Lo Yachru Mokim Shemazin. To the Sanif in the Brisa, they would belt themselves in name. They wouldn't do it beneath their waist area, nor above their elbows. Rather opposite their elbows. Amar Rav Ashi comes an interesting story regarding this belting thing. Amar Li, Huna Bar Nosson related to me a story that happened to him. Zimnachad, one time it so happens that I was standing in front of a king, a Persian king. His name was Izgadar. Kamei di Izgadar Malka. V'hava madli li hem yanoyim. And it so happens that my belt was a bit on the high side. And the king walked over and he lowered my belt, lest it be in like a more sweaty area. Varmali told me, you have to dress nobly. Mamlechas kohanim, v'goy kodesh, the Torah describes you, a kingdom of priests, holy nation. You have to dress presentably. Okay, so this corresponds with the Gemara before, that the belt was meant to be a bit lower. When I came to Amemar, I told him the story. Amar Ali told me, great, it was fulfilled on you, the words, V'hayu melachim, kings will be omnayach, your helpers, your dressers. You had this great king come and dress you. In any case, we see that in fact, even the Goyish kings, men of nobility, would understand that royalty is meant to present in a noble manner, in a way which is befitting, and likewise the belt is meant to be in its proper place. Okay, so we learned about the din of the kohen wearing his proper begadim. You can't go up, you can't go down, right? A kohen head should wear exactly 4, not 8. Likewise, a kohen gadol can't drop his number either. Certainly, if he's missing all his begadim, or he decides to add another, double pants or something like that. And whether it pertains to critical avodah, non-critical avodah, it is possible. What about if the beged is worn out? So b'diavad it's okay. However, dirty or torn would be possible. What about long or short? So regarding undersized, if it's to begin with undersized, it would be possible according to all shittas. If it was really made to size, but it was shortened through a belt, Rav says puzzle, Shmuel says kosher. If it was oversized and dragging, Rav would say puzzle, Shmuel would say kosher. We had halacha regarding tzitzis. 3 corners is pater, 4 is chayev, 5 is machlekes. Ksus laila is pater, ksus suma is chayev. Big tikuna meant to be made of linen. Lechatchila should be new, right? And they're meant to be spun, 6-plied, etc. How do we know linen? We have 2 sources. Either the word bad indicates, it describes the linen stalk, or the pasuk in Yecheskel, Pare Pishtim, which was known in the Chatchila, but it was recorded by Yecheskel, and we learned about the proper placement of the belt as per the story with Izgadar Malka. All the best to you and Atzlacha Rabbah.